And I think that our job is to stay curious. It is to keep giving back and helping and guiding any way that we can, and just to keep growing and exploring how we can be better. That way, we can not only accomplish that self-fulfillment, but also be able to help the world around us and the world we're going to leave behind.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of the people in my network. So these are great leads I'll be having these conversations with to get to the books that have impacted, or the book that has impacted their life, their work, whatever it may be. All those worlds intersect. And my guest today is Desiree Martinez. And Desiree has been marketing since Myspace, back when coding your profile was the ultimate flex. With more than 15 years of experience helping small businesses grow, she has built a career turning marketing overwhelm into clarity and connection. As the founder and CEO of the Kast agency, Desiree helps service-based and community-driven businesses build strategies that actually work in the real world. Known for her straightforward, sassy approach, Desiree has partnered with brands like Adobe, Streamyard, and VidIQ, and has helped thousands of small business owners grow through trust, consistency, and community. When she's not coaching or creating content, Desiree can be found on her Michigan homestead, sipping tea, rolling dice in Dungeons and Dragons, or chasing her next big idea. Stop Marketing, Start Belonging is her guide for building loyal customers and a business people truly care about. And I'm lucky to have met Desiree through Edie Clark, and I had a conversation like this. Edie was on my podcast in April of 2023. That's incredible to think that was 3 years ago. I want to cry just thinking about that how long that's been. But it was episode 48. Jesus Christ. And the books that we covered were Hello Fears, Crush Your Comfort Zone, and Become Who You're Meant to Be by Michelle Poler. And the second book that Edie covered in that episode was The Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires by Victoria Gallagher. Desiree, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
It is hitting me how long that's been since I've talked to Edie and just how quickly time goes by. It's just incredible.
They always,
Like I said,
as a parent, they always say the days are long, the years are short. So I get you.
yeah, that's something that I've thought about in the last couple weeks, man, because my kids have been, coming out of winter, they've been nuts. And now my little one, my third one, she's really trying to keep up with her brothers, puts them in their place. But it's like, yeah, every day is a battle, but then the years are just going by like, I don't understand that. But in any case, thank you for being here for this conversation. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Let's start off with, who are you today? Can you provide some insight into the work that you're doing with your clients? I see you posting on LinkedIn, but for those who may not be connected to you on LinkedIn, what does that work like in the day-to-day so that they understand who's going to share their book with them?
Yeah. So my my world is a lot of like, how can I help your business stop doing those random acts of marketing and get real clarity on like what works for you, what works for your business, what works for your customers through audit, strategy, and implementation. So I take my 17 plus years of digital marketing and just marketing experience, and we build something for you, because there's so many gurus and experts and random advertisements we get put in our face. Like, ooh, that sounds fun. And the ADHD takes over. And we're like, okay, like, how can we chase this dopamine easy button high for a beat? And it's like, no, we're not doing that. And so it's just felt like getting that really clear for people. I'm this combination of marketing since MySpace and professional peopler. So it's just those two things working side by side to build human connection and then do that digital bridge to nurturing.
So to understand how you got here, can you explain to me what your path has looked like? Can you lay out that journey? Since I like to start around the time somebody either leaves college or goes into the workforce, whatever it may be, whatever their story is and where they originated. But what is your kind of origin path to get to who we see in front of us today and the work you're doing?
Yeah. I wanted to be an animator. So I saw Toy Story in theaters when I was 10 years old, 1995. And I came out of that movie theater and I turned to my parents like, I'm gonna make movies like that someday. And then I literally worked towards that path for 12 years. I dove myself into like art, being a good student. Like I went to the Art Institute and like figured out like what I want to do, how I wanted to make it work. And then I just graduated at, like, a really inopportune time, and it was at the start of the recession, and the last thing people really wanted to spend money on was making things pretty, and so I had to figure out, like, how can I pay my bills? How can I make my life work as a 23, 24-year-old person fresh out of
Yeah.
college with all of the things that we had on our plates, and I started networking in my local community in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was like, I can hawk my graphic design skills and help businesses with marketing materials. And along the way, all of these grown-ups kept asking me, what's this Facebook thing? And I'm like, I have been on Facebook since you could only get it with a college email back in 2006. And I was like, what are you old people doing on Facebook? Like it became this whole thing. And so I started like using networking, teaching people about Myspace to like network with people as like a lead in for the graphic work. And then one day this guy turns to me and he's like, Desiree, you should do this for your business. And I looked him deadpan in his face and I was like, no one is going to pay me to be on Facebook. And I eat my words every day because that's exactly what I have built my business around doing is making money, helping businesses succeed through social and digital marketing. And obviously it's evolved with time. I've been doing social media since before it was a job, since before it was a title. And it's just been this incredible journey of like riding the tsunami of internet marketing. I say marketing since MySpace because I really feel like it's like dog years. It's actually longer than it actually has been. Like we say 17 years, then we say since MySpace, and you're like, wow, so much has happened on the internet since then. Right? So it's
Oh,
like, okay,
yeah.
like it's different, it's different. And so where I sit now is in a position of like fractional CMO, chief marketing officer work, where it's about like how do we find the right marketing solutions in the sea of options that make sense for like what I'm trying to do as a business and what I wanna do for my customers and knowing that no business is the same. Like, you could be in the same town and both be, like, plumbers, and the strategy is going to be different for both of you because who you are, what you like to do, and how you like to show up is gonna be totally different, and so it's about navigating that, and that's, like, the creative dance of work I get to do every day.
So what does your path look like? What were the pivots to, workplace versus business? I mean, was it business right away? What did that look like?
Okay, so so I talk about this a lot about actually in my first book, Start Suck Get Better. And it really maps out like this crazy, just like windy uphill, downhill journey of like where do I want to be? How do I want to make this work? How do I educate people driving all over this gigantic city? I mean, Phoenix is the fifth largest city in the country. And like trying to figure like how do I network, getting pulled into like terrible network marketing businesses, like, would you like to sell Avon kind of things? No, driving across town for 30-minute Starbucks meetings, just really figuring out like what it is. And at the cornerstone of everything I've done over the course of 17 years, it's been about like connecting with people, like staying in touch, being a resource to them, nurturing, supporting, showing up, and like just maintaining those. I've done everything from, like I said, I've watched platforms rise and fall. Like I remember Google Plus, like I was a big Google Plus user. I actually have Google glasses, like those weird, the first ones before anything came out. Um, I have watched the, rise and fall of platforms like Foursquare, Meerkat, like Periscope, all of these things. Like, we use them, we abuse them, and then they go away, and we have to move on to the next thing that's gonna hold attention. I got onto YouTube in 2017. Um, My husband, was in the Air Force at the time, and we had orders to move to South Korea, and I needed a way to keep marketing my business without being able to people, and so I was like, "Well, if I can't go to the people, I'll bring the people to me my virtual face," and so I started using YouTube as a way to connect with people and educate them, and I loved it, like, as someone whose report cards all said talks too much in class, like, it was the perfect outlet for me to connect and share, and be the ham that I really, really am. And I've just been on the ride. I've always prided myself in being able to see ahead of where things are going, like knowing what's coming and like kind of positioning myself to be in rooms where things happen or on the places where they're supposed to be so that I can position myself as a resource and an expert to help the people that are like focused on their jobs, like being lawyers, being dentists, being, whatever that is that they do for their income, like the thing they went into business to do to support them, to let them know, like, these are the places you should be, these are the places you shouldn't be, and go from there. There's countless stories, countless failures, countless successes. I mean, it's a very big, windy road trip of a road all around the world.
Um, so for some of those companies that you mentioned that came and went, it's
Mhm.
funny. I remember signing up for Facebook, I think right after college, and I got on there. I'm like, no one is here. No one
Well,
is
people
here.
coming
This
from
is,
MySpace, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, no one is here. This is dumb. No, I think it may have been before I was on MySpace. Because somebody had said when I was on MySpace, "Hey, you need to go over to Facebook. We're too old for this MySpace stuff. Go to Facebook." I'm like, "Oh, I already have an account over there." And then I went and it was just like Times Square. Now it was a little busier than when I first signed up. But Desiree, for you, in terms of like those companies that came and went, did you see those issues before those companies went south? Were there some that you noted when they came on the scene or after a couple months of usage that you didn't think they were going to last? And if you do have some of those examples where you did foresee their demise, what was it that kind of hinted to you that they weren't going to be around long?
It's more common now, I think, for platforms to rise and fall. But back in the day, it was, like, really weird that it happened. I think the first one was the OG with MySpace. Like, I used MySpace, like, just disappeared one day. It was like its relevance just became non-existent, which is, we laugh at it. Like, Facebook offered to buy MySpace at one point in time. They're like, "No, I'm good. I'm gonna hang with my friends and be Tom." Like, it was this whole thing. And I think that it's the same, like, if you think about the same era where we were having such a, like, cultural shift because the recession showed the small our millennial generation, our, like, young Gen X generation, like, we kept to take control of our destinies. We can't rely on the systems that we were told for decades that we needed to fit into and make work for us because the jobs weren't there. Nothing that we've been promised had been given to us. Like, we went the path and there was nothing there. The treasure chest was empty. And so we started creating a world for ourselves to exist in. So we had the Facebooks. This is where your Ubers came from, your Airbnbs came from, your Grubhubs came from, like all of these tools that we wanted to make our lives easier, better, and that we integrate in. And they're such a natural part of our life that, and they're common terms that didn't exist before. And so we created this world that we wanted and needed, and then created need for other people. And so when we're talking about the rise and fall stuff, I think the best and biggest example of that is actually not with MySpace and Facebook. It's actually with Blockbuster and Netflix. I remember my job after college, I was a government contractor and I lived in Florida all by myself and I was like, I need entertainment. Like I was alone, me and my dog. And I was like, I signed up for Blockbuster's program where like they would mail you DVDs and then you could take the DVDs to the store and exchange them for another movie. And then you had a new DVD that you could watch. I'm totally aging myself. But, like, it was this program that they had built to kind of compete with Netflix, and I loved it because I was like, "I can then take this, go to the store, and get a new one versus having to send it in the mail and wait for my
And
next one to
wait.
come with Netflix." Because remember,
Yeah.
Netflix wasn't always streaming. It was DVDs, right, that you got sent, and sometimes you got really unlucky and it was too scratched for you to watch, or it would get scratched right at the peak time when you really, like, were, like, into the climax of the movie, right? And so it's just that concept. It's like if you think about it, like, we are a blockbuster generation. We grew up Friday nights and Saturday nights, you went to Blockbuster, you picked out a movie, your parents would get 2 or 3, and you as a kid would get 1, and, like, that was how your evenings were spent. Like, it was a culture, it was a vibe, it was a thing, and
And it was
nothing
a
was more.
heartbreak if you went to that wall of movies and they were all taken, there was nothing behind them.
Yes. And I remember building my DVD collection, my personal one, by buying, like, the old used ones, like, "Oh, this movie isn't popular anymore," or, like, "We only need a couple now," like, "We'll sell the ones that we had to buy, like, 500 of them," right? So, it's just all that stuff, like, it was a culture, right? And so, I think the lesson in it, besides, like, the walk down memory lane that we just kinda went on together, it's that you have to adapt or die. And it's a really hard concept for a lot of people, especially when we're talking about the internet, because there's also so many industries where adapting isn't always necessary. And like these are going to be things like your HVACs, your plumbers, your everyday businesses that you have. Because like where I live in Michigan, there are houses that are being brand new built and they're all techy and cool and the modernest of things, but there's also houses that are like 150 years old that have like original piping. Like that's as old as it gets for housing. And so it's like it's this bridge of like, well, doesn't matter what happens to the economy, people are still gonna need to flush their toilets. It doesn't matter what happens to the economy, people are still gonna expect their electricity to work and their heaters to work and those kinds of things. And so it's harder, I think, for those sorts of business to understand that like while I do something traditional and necessary and quote unquote recession proof, how I market my business has to continue to change and evolve because how I exist in the world continues to change and evolve. And so when we're looking at all these platforms that have like died and gone away, it's because they were exciting and cool for a moment. And then it was like people started to realize like there isn't really a place for this anymore,
Mhm.
or it's just too niche to matter. So these are in your Meerkats, your Periscopes, your Google Pluses, your uh oh, the audio the recording one that everyone got really excited about during COVID, like, it's so, like I can't remember the name of it, like, the audio app, right? So it's all that stuff, and, um, what also happens is bigger platforms develop that technology, making that tool then irrelevant. And so it's very much like, why would I buy it if I can just make it myself and copy you and take
Yeah.
it for yourself? Again, we see that with Instagram stories. It's a direct copy of Snapchat.
Yeah.
We saw well, there was that app that's like the Behance, I think it was, or something like that, where it's like you took a picture of yourself and a picture of what was going on behind you at the same time. Instagram created that tool feature for itself. Like it just keeps like these bigger tech companies can just adopt the technology and the methodology which it happens, and then that allows for that one to become irrelevant. And so I think it's sort of that idea when we get back to your original question, like, do I see these platforms dying? Like, is the writing on the wall? And I think it's if it's cool tech, bigger tech is going to absorb it. And so it's being able to see that now. And then it's also understanding that, like, this is also why it's really important to own your audience as much as humanly possible and not rely on third party platforms like the Facebook, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, and that, because you never know when something's going to change, when the algorithms are going to shift and the platform or the features that have allowed for you to build a business go away. So I think it's like more the cautionary tale is less, did I see them dying, or more, how did you weather the loss of them?
Yeah. So then for you, I'm not gonna pin it on you, I'm not gonna hold it to you, I'm not gonna come back in 10 years and say, "But you said this." But where do you think things are going now? Just in general, knowing what you've seen in the past, and obviously technology evolves, so it's not
Mm,
gonna what happened then isn't what's gonna happen going forward.
mm.
But with everything, with those past, with those lessons from the past, along with new technology coming in, where do you imagine things go forward in your industry? What do you think's gonna happen?
I think that where we're at, so when we think about marketing, we actually don't have to think about it like tool after tool or year after year. We actually need to think about it in 5-year chunks. So when we look at where marketing is in like 5-year spans of time, you can kind of see where it is. Like 2020, it was TikTok creator economy. When we go back to like 2015, it was like the Facebook, Instagram era. You go back to 20, or and like probably even YouTube a little bit in there. If you go back to 2010, it was like peak Facebook, peak what's the internet? What is this social media foundation piece? We go back to 2005, that was email marketing, SEO, like website building. So we have these eras that are defined by marketing technology that is now common space that we like are just part of marketing options now. So SEO, websites, email marketing, being on social media, having a video marketing strategy. These are all now categories of marketing that we now have as options as business owners to use based on our skill set and our target customer. So where a video marketing strategy might make sense for one business, an email marketing strategy might make sense for another. And so it's like figuring all of those pieces out. So when I look at where we are now in 2026, and this is where our shift to 2025 is we are in our AI era, but we're also in our human era. Again, it's such a weird contrast of where we are. We
Mm.
have never been more starved for human interaction and in our I think in my life. I'm 41 next month, and it's like peopling became so hard because the people and the peopling was taken away from us from COVID. And we spent 2 years roughly like in isolation trying to figure it out. A combination of like laws in place for limitations. Some states had less, some states had more. Like there was all this stuff like we remember. And so, but it took us away from peopling and dove us into the internet so hard. That's why TikTok was so successful. That's why YouTube was so successful. That's why the creator economy blossomed into like existence, and we went from being YouTubers to the creator economy as like how we did things. And so as we've pulled out into like, okay, now I want to human, and the internet is such and want to human and go to things like Eventbrite has done a lot of studies talking about how there has been a like 400% increase in-person mahjong parties and like getting togethers to do that. Book clubs are on the rise. People learning things and going to like niche classes and groups, the yogas, the physical activity, the sourdoughing, the knitting, like all of these, like, how can I be with other people around a common interest, which common interest is a form of niching, which is a marketing strategy that we've applied to real life, right? Like, how can I get really niche? It's not a book club. It's I want to go to the book club about like spicy fairy books, like, like those
Spicy
specific
fairy
things, right?
books.
Or like I'm really
You've been
into
looking
taking
at
care of
my
my
Google
baby.
search.
It's okay.
I
I
got it.
won't
I
tell.
got it.
We all have our smut bugs, don't worry about it. But it's like that idea, like in that niching thing. But while we're also existing in this world where people are like AI is gonna take our jobs and you have to adapt or die or you're gonna go away and blah 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 blah. And so while we're like obsessed with AI and it's changing how we market. Like we're not just doing SEO anymore. We're doing SEO and AEO and GEO to help our websites get found and our brands get found through those AI platforms. We still have to human, right? And so when I say like how would I define our 5 years that we're in right now, like 2025 to 2030, we are in the human marketing to digital nurturing era. Like that is like where we have been. I saw it coming in 2024, and in 2025 it really became evident, and it's continued to become evident even now, even as we head into our next financial whatever our new recession word is that we're going to have right now, because we are in a financial struggle bus.
Hmm.
Um, it's we are still having that combination of like how can we human and turn to each other for support, for trade, for like help with doing things, more DIYing, more all of that, while also using AI to help us to systemize and allow for us to operate at the way that we were before, but having to do it at like a different cost point. So like that's where the battle is. And that's what I've talked about in my book I wrote, Stop Marketing, Start Belonging, which is like we have to understand that traditional marketing still exists for a reason. And this is how we utilize it, and this is how we bridge it to the digital nurturing piece.
So you and I had talked. After Edie introduced us, we had a video call and we got to talking about AI.
Mm.
And I forget exactly when you and I did that call. It was last fall, I believe. And we talked about AI, how far it's come, where you're like, where you had just, and you just mentioned it, where it's kind of like everybody's kind of panicking, but there's a way to kind of incorporate it into the work that you're doing. And not everybody's going to lose their job. Where I was kind of more cynical, I'm kind of like, wait, sit back and see for me. Um, and I know how quickly things can change. So can you explain a little more your ideas of AI and its application to broadly, and then how it's changed since we last spoke? Say we last spoke 4 months ago, because I
We
know
spoke
how
in
quickly.
November. We spoke in November. I just looked it up on
Okay.
my calendar. So
Okay.
it's been
So
about
what is
5
that?
months.
December? Okay. 5 months. So in general, your thoughts on AI in industry, whatever industry, maybe your industry, and then how has it changed and even that in that time?
I would say the biggest change that we've seen in AI is government intervention. And the reason I mentioned that, again, we're talking about economics and the state of where we are, the partnership between the Department of War and ChatGPT, I think is very telling about how integrated and necessary and big a tool is with the government getting involved. While I know I have a lot of my own personal preferences and like things that I do based on it, like I no longer use ChatGPT. I have pivoted away from it and found more powerful tools and different things that I can use to accomplish things I'm trying to do because I don't
Can you give some
really believe
examples?
so pivoted from ChatGPT to using Claude, because Anthropic as a company was very much, I'm like, no, we're not going to partner with the Department of War because having government intrusion and influence over answers
And defense wanted to
is,
take the safeguards off of it, right? That was
yes,
the main sticking point.
you were seeing a lot of changes too, with also how the algorithm worked with like how is it much more conservative responses. It just you can just see the noticeable changes. And so based on my political like objectives and like where I am. Also, I just think Claude's a better tool because it has more checks and balances. I think it's easier and better to train. It has more options with like Claude Code. They just launched Claude Design this past week, and they're continuing to like have integrations. Like you can do stuff with Canva and you can do stuff with documents. Like there's a lot of really intentional integrations that allow for really specific project developments and things that you would want to be doing in the way that ChatGPT I don't think has gone yet because again, it's trying to be this big corporate thing versus about its users.
Hmm.
And we're seeing AI integration into lots of other tools. We're seeing it in Canva. We're seeing partnerships with applications into other things. And the thing is about AI is it's been there for a long time. And I, from a video content creator perspective, if you're familiar with the idea of like taking these long form video clips, which we're using Riverside has an AI integration to it where it finds your best, most viral opportunities for creating shorts. And then it has its AI do the transcripts for you. And it takes minutes, and then you have new content to help keep your episodes alive and drive traffic to it through a new algorithm or through a new platform, right? Like there's already been AI in so many things. It's just now it's got nice fancy term in the way that like the creator economy became such a big deal in like 2022. And so it's that piece. And so like where AI like has changes, we're seeing more government intervention. And I think that we're seeing more tool options and more people interested in figuring out how they can use it in their businesses and finding the line of like, okay, like this is where I can use it and this is where I'm always going to be safe is what I do. It very much is adapt or die. Like, this is our blockbuster moment. So every business needs to understand how it works in the same way that every business needs to understand how email marketing works or understand how social media works, so that they can be prepared for it, so they can have a level of knowledge about it so that they're not susceptible to it. They can recognize when something is AI generated versus when something is real. It's sort of the idea of like being able to vet media, like, is this real? Is this not real? That like education around it. So I think that's the biggest change that we've seen the past like 5, 6 months with AI.
Desiree, does it make sense from and thank you for that response. Does it make sense from your childhood that this is what you're doing? Not that you knew you were going to end up here, but what are the ways that you can connect your childhood to the work that you're doing now? I heard some examples and I can surmise, but what words do you put to it?
You know, I don't think any kid is doing what they said they any adult is doing what they said they were gonna do as a kid. And if they are wild exceptions and not rules. And I remember the first time I heard this concept, I was in college talking to my career advisor, and she was like, "It's very unlikely that you will have the job you went into college to do." She's like, "My degree is in this, and I'm doing this." Like, it's that kind of idea. And what I do see, though, from myself as a kid versus how I am now is, 1, I still talk too much in class. I am still very much a ham. I still talk way too fast, and sometimes it's hard to understand me. But I also am very, smiley and creative and want to help people as much as I can by being in spaces. I'm also still very extroverted. So my foundational, I think, personality traits have allowed for me to be successful or at my own detriment at the same time, as an adult. You know, I still get emotional like anybody else does. I still put my foot in my mouth sometimes, even with all of my years of experience. Um, and so I think though, like from a skills perspective though, that creativity is still the biggest one. I remember I'm a terrible test taker. I don't know why. Like multiple choice tests, fill in the blanks, like those are terrible. But if I can explain something,
Mm.
I'm golden. And so, like, well, I didn't struggle in school, but it was just this, like, thing that I did. And so I would find new and creative ways to educate or do my presentations and, my assignments in school so that they could be more impactful, memorable, or unique because I would do so poorly on these, like, written test things. So I remember once in my biology class, 10th grade, I found our old family camcorder, like one of these ones where like the eye was like this and like you had a tape in it. And I remember it was so cool. And I remember doing this. I got like toys and CDs and I put together this presentation that was talking about genetic manipulation where it's like you get to pick how you'd want your kids to look. Like I want this person's eyes, I want this person's voice, this hair, like these features, like the genetic, like creating the perfect human. It was a project that I was doing. And I remember recording it as a video and I remember getting 100% purely based on the effort in which the reason in which I did it, even though he would be like, he's like, there's some corrections in here, but like this was no one's ever done anything like this before in my 20 years of teaching. Right. So it's like those are the kinds of creative solutions I've always had 'cause I just like to find new ways to present and connect information for people.
What did you go to school for? What was the exact degree?
I have my bachelor's of arts in multimedia art and animation. I went to college with the intention of being an animator for Disney, and then that later kind of pivoted into doing 3D modeling and texturing for entertainment.
Okay. So what do you consider your superpower? Like I've heard a lot of powers, a lot of just things that you bring to the table, but what do people say we go to Desiree for this? Like no one does it just like her.
Those are 2 very separate sentences, right? My superpower is when people come to me for tend to be separate, which is probably a little contradictory and, like, maybe a brand inconsistency thing I should probably work on. People
You're
know
welcome.
me people that know me for people know me for marketing, like, they're like, "Desiree does the marketing things." But people also connect with me because I'm a peopler. I love to people. I can carry multiple texting conversations and talk with people and check on people and, you know, do all of the humaning and connecting and socializing in a very intentional way. My husband, who has the opposite problem, he's very introverted and has anxiety. And he's like, I have a hard enough time crafting a text message to someone I've been friends with for 15 years. And you're just over here having like 5 conversations with
With
people at one time
strangers.
and they're all making complete and total sense. I'm also like doing like a Marco Polo video with somebody. Like it's just I love to people. And so like that's my superpower, I think, is being able to people, to connect to human, to find the string and the vibe and we pull in together and we're like, how can we be here in this moment and like what are you struggling with and like how can I help you, even if it's just a hug, or is it a solution, or is it a phone call? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
But from a skills perspective, it's the marketing piece. It's like, okay, Desiree, how do I turn this around? How do I take this and make it make sense? I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to get it there. I'm doing too much, or I've tried all these things, none of them working. Can you make it make sense? And usually the peopling leads to the marketing.
So you've talked about your extroversion, you've given examples versus your husband's introversion, um, your creative side, wanting to be an animator. But when it comes to the peopling, when it comes to like what you see in other people, how you relate to other people, you've mentioned it yourself. If I can help, like that's very specific wording. There's nature versus nurture. So I could see some of that being nature, but where did that come from in you? Like, what is your thinking behind that? When did it start? Like, how did your family play into that? Finding like the human string and kind of following that. Where does that come from?
I grew up a military kid. And so moving a lot and people coming in and out of your life a lot is a very common thread and something I'm very familiar with. And even I was fortunate enough that I got to do high school in all 4 years. My dad was out of the Marine Corps at that time. And I got to do high school in one place, which was a really big deal for me. And I got to do college in one place, which is a really big deal to me. Because I got to build roots and connections with people. But being able to adapt and weave in and out of social situations, I think is a necessary survival, maybe even a trauma response to having to deal with people coming in and out of your life all of the time. And I will tell you, even to this day, I'm horrible at names, but I'll remember your face until I die. I think it's from that exact same thing. Like people come in and out of my life all the time. I see them, but I don't necessarily remember their names. Like I'll recognize someone's profile picture on Facebook or in LinkedIn before I remember their name. And so I think that is where that is. My dad is undiagnosed autistic and not a people-y person. Like he could probably count on one hand all the people that matter to him most in his life, and 3 of them are me and my sister and my mom. So it's kind of one of those things. And my mom is also a very social person as well. She literally still writes handwritten letters with some of her friends who live in places all over the country. Like she's like, we'll talk on the phone, but we started our friendship, and at the time in the 90s, like we wrote letters. And so we just maintained that form of communication all of these years later.
Huh.
And so I think that's really beautiful to like meet people where they are. That's why if you look at how I communicate with people, some people I email, I text, I Marco Polo, I have voice chats with, or I do like WhatsApp. Like that's 5 different ways. Oh, and Facebook Messenger. That's 6 different ways I'm talking to people based on like where I can meet them at, because I want to meet them where they are so I can make them comfortable. And it's more important to me to connect, not where I connect with them. And so I think that is kind of where that comes from, is being able to do that. I also just have such incredible FOMO with life. Like I love to travel. I love to do experiencing. Nothing is more boring to me than camping. I don't get why people camp. I don't get it. Like why? There's a whole world of cultures and foods and places to see. Why would you want to go stare at woods? Why would you want to take like your exact house and
Introverts.
go
Introverts.
do it in
I
the
don't know.
woods? And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Even and I live in Michigan, right? And like that's what everyone loves to do here. Like the vast majority of people, I would say 99% of people spend their summers going what they call up north here. We're going up north. We're going up to the family cabin. We're going to the lake. And I'm like, I've never been up north. I've lived here for almost 5 years. And I'm like, you know where I have been though? England, Japan, Wales, New York, Boston, Philly. Like I go to other places to experience what they have to offer. Even if I'm just in town for like 24 hours, I'm like, what's one thing I can do and one place I can eat in this town that's like a local thing to do. And I always try very hard to like experience it. And so getting to people is a version of that. Like, oh, tell me your stories. Tell me your
Yeah,
experiences. Like,
exactly.
what have you been through that I can like connect with on and learn from and experience? Like, oh my gosh, like that's how I find cool new places to do or places to try or things to do or get ideas for my life just because I talk to people.
Yeah, it's funny. The way you tell that, it kind of painted for me why I do this, why I podcast. where it's kind of like, if I just want to keep to myself, that's camping. That's like, I pick up my home and I bring it somewhere else and I do my thing there. And then I go over here and I do but the way you just explain, like, I like traveling because I've been to these places, and then that's what it is with people. I've known that, but you put new words to it. Like, I look at conversations with new people as like a blank canvas. Like, I see it as a blank canvas, not representative of what they're bringing to the table, but it's something that we can create together. Like, it's somebody
Mm.
new to learn from, hear experiences from. And it's incredible how some of us are just drawn to really understand people and other people aren't. No judgment. Everybody's doing what works for them. But the way that we're wired is just kind of like, it's almost like that shiny thing. Like, what's this? What's this? What's this? Like, exploring the world around you. So I love hearing that example.
Yeah. So if like, but I think also experiences allow for you to connect with people better. My stories when I talk with people about experiences and things I've done are gonna be anywhere from, like, let's talk about sports, because while I'm a nerd, like I said, I play D&D and I do all of those things, I can hold my own in a conversation about the Detroit Lions and the Michigan Wolverines and, go blue, like, I grew up that way, like, those conversations, to be able to talk about nerdy things in movies and TV shows, to be able to talk about travel, to be able to talk about food, to be able to talk about places. Like, I've lived in Korea, I've lived in Japan, I've done study abroad programs in Italy, I've been to England, I've been to Wales, these aren't bragging things. These are conscious efforts I've made in my life and decisions that I've done to go have these new experiences and do these new things and still live my life so that I have these experiences to make me a better person and to learn and grow in new intentional ways. And those foundational characteristics of who I am don't change. I'm still curious. I still love to talk. I still love to connect. But I just get to do that in different places, in different ways. And the more experiences I have and people I get to talk to, the more I get to people and support and help and guide and be that light or that best friend or that tough love or whatever that person needs at that moment. It allows me to chameleon in a very intentional way, and I'm sure there are plenty of therapists that are listening to your thing like, "Girl, who hurt you? Tell me your trauma." I have
Well,
those, but,
that's
like,
the
those are
thing.
different podcasts, but, like, that's
That's the
how
thing.
I
You
function,
mentioned like your dad's military service took you all over the world.
and my husband,
So,
both of them.
and your husband. So people were coming in and out of your life. So you said like what I do now, this superpower now and you joke, you're like, maybe it's trauma related, but it probably is. And that's one of those things that I find on here is like so much of what hit us low in the past can take us high in the future because
Mm.
all of these things that we went through that we had to adapt to, that we had to respond to, that we had to be resilient through serve us in such a way now. And I'm finding more and more stories like that in this series where it's kind of like all those things that we were through, all the things we went through, all the challenges that we overcame. It's just kind of it opens up the world because if you made it through those things, you have a deeper appreciation for everything else around you. So as you were talking, I'm kind of like, yeah, she had like a lot of people coming in and out of her world. So she has a deeper appreciation. If she has a relationship that's going to stick around, where that connection is going to remain, it's like you subconsciously, yeah, you want to see what's there. Like you don't have to move as much as you did in the past. So it's like you want to take advantage. I think it's great because you allow people to see the value that they hold because you're curious about them and you're sharing with them and you're bringing the best out of them.
The thing that I find fascinating about people where I live in Michigan, I live in a town called Brighton, Michigan. And it's one of those places, Michigan is one of those places where, like, if you are from Michigan, you are from Michigan. Like, people are like multi-generational deep, like they never leave. Or that they try to leave, they always come back because they want to be near home. They want to be by the Midwestern values, all things. And I get it. I have fully drank in the Kool-Aid. I have taken the blood oath, like all of the things. Like, I love living here. My kids are getting to experience a life I could never understand, which is growing up somewhere and they've had friends like since they moved here and they'll have them for life. And I remember this woman in my network, she's my lawyer actually, and she was like, Oh, I'm going up north with my friends from elementary school. She's like in her mid 40s. Like, I'm like, that's insane to me. I know people from my whole life that are not my family. There's not a lot of them, but there are a handful of them. And we've always gone in and out of each other's lives. But the thing I think that's so interesting for people to understand. I think also hard for people to understand. I don't know if it's because of the media that we watch or the stories that we wish we could have or the idolization of things, but it is okay for people to be in your life for a season. They don't need to be in your life for life. And the people that you do choose to have in your life, or the people that you choose to be in their life for extended periods of time, you have to remember some really important foundational things. Number one, it takes work. You have to show up for them just like they have to show up for you. You have to put an effort. You have to put aside your own ish to be there for them and understand that sometimes you have to be in a giving season and sometimes you're in a taking season, and that is okay. And I think the second thing is you have to remember that you guys are going to, in order to maintain that relationship, you have to continue to grow as people and grow together as people, like how your friendship functions and the things that you're going to go through. It's being there and showing up and doing those things. And number three, it's important to remember like you're going to disagree, you're gonna cry, and you're gonna have big feelings, and you're gonna have lots of happy moments together. And that is what builds those really strong bonds. My best friends don't live anywhere near me. My entire relationship is done with them is done through Marco Polos and voice messages. One is in North Carolina, one is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and one is in Seattle. And I live in Michigan right in the middle. So it's like those are relationships that take really conscious work and effort because we've been through so much. We've all traveled and done stuff and come into each other's lives in really weird and interesting places based on the season that we were in. And that's how we maintain those relationships. And so it's okay for people to be in your life for a season because you can outgrow them. They can outgrow you. Your opinions and your life goals and your objectives can change, and it's okay. It's always so much better to like remember something fondly and reflect on it and learn from that experience so that you can be a better person and a better friend or a better like family member going forward from those experiences. And if you are feeling salty about something, it's probably because you need to do that work and that closure around it and take the time to reflect like what were the good things? What did I learn? And how can I apply this in relationships going forward and let that go so that you can move forward and be the better person you want to be.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Desiree, what does leadership mean to you? What does great leadership look like?
I think great leadership looks different for everybody. I don't think there's any one way to be a leader. And I think even as a leader yourself, how you show up for your team and your people is different depending on who they are. There's this sentence I learned at the very beginning of parenting that has always stuck with me. And it is parent the kids you have, not the kid you want. And it is so hard for me because we as parents have all these projections and big hopes and dreams for our kids.
Yeah.
But they might not be interested at all. Like I'm a D&D kid and I have a soccer kid. Like for like it's like those pieces like okay, that's the kid he is. I'm gonna nurture his talents based on my skills for that. Like the biggest one for me has been I have kids that both have ADHD. I have a daughter with ODD and I have a son with autism, and I don't have that. My brain doesn't work anything like theirs. And so I had to spend time in therapy and talking with people and figuring things out for years to realize I need to figure out how to use my superpower to help them use their superpower, not try and make them my superpower or make them who I want them to be. And so we talk about leadership. I think that it rolls back in that same thing. People are different and it's important to understand who they are. There's all these different like personality tests and things that you can do, like, the Enneagram or the what is it, the ENJC or
Mm-hmm.
whatever they are, the disc, like there's so many disc assessments, like there's
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, all those. There's all those different ones. Like whatever one vibes for you and allows for you to understand people better, like that's the one you use. And it teaches you how, like, okay, how do I talk to this person who has this superpower that I need? And then talk to this person, this totally different person, superpower that I need in order for me to lead better to accomplish the goals that I have. And so I think that I think the secret to being a good leader is to lead the people you have that are accomplishing the goals you want met. And I think and obviously there's a vibe check. Like you can't not everyone's gonna work. Like you're not you're not tacos. You're not supposed to make everyone happy. Okay. Like so it works the same way with like people. Like not everyone's gonna like you. Sometimes you're salty, sometimes you're sweet, and that's fine. And so it's like figuring out what that vibe is and make sure that works. But it's how can I be a better leader to the person that's helping me get to my bigger goals and like figure out that piece for them and then do it different for someone else so that they can feel heard, seen, and loved, but still under this operational mission and purpose that's driving everyone forward.
Again, perfectly said. Love it. So, Desiree, before we jump into the book, the main book, your main book that we want to cover for this episode, you had mentioned your first book. Can you give some background on that? You know, what made you write it, what it's about, anything you want to share?
I wrote Start, Suck, Get Better because I thought I was supposed to. Everyone I knew was like writing books and doing great things with it and speaking on stages and all of these things. I was like, I'm going to write a book and it's going to change people's lives about marketing and they're going to learn all these things about me. It's going to be great. And it was the weirdest first pancake ever. I love that book. It taught me so much. I still say that sentence all the time. Like you have to start, you have to suck in order to get better. Like I use that line in my life all the time, which is why the book is titled that. And it's this interesting memoir that's like my journey from entrepreneurship. So like right around that 2009 era up to COVID and like what I was dealing with in my life and like where I was as a woman, as a girlfriend, fiance, wife, mother. Like it became all of those things in that course of time. But also having these isolated like marketing stories. And I had interviewed a bunch of people for the book around these isolated marketing things. Like I remember I talked with Dennis, the founder of Foursquare. I talked with Vincenzo Landino about like how he used Meerkat to turn it into like a 6-figure business. I talked with my best friend Crystal about how she used live streaming to grow her pet business, like her pet sitting business. Like, so I have these isolated marketing stories and they didn't quite blend together really well, but I still love it. It was still a wonderful thing for me to do. And I learned the lesson that when you write a book, you have to keep marketing said book. Like you have to keep talking about it. You have to keep telling people that you wrote one and that they need to buy it over and over and over again. I basically was like, I wrote a book. Right, let me go do this other thing now. Like I didn't sit in it and celebrate it and like remind people to do it and to market. Like with Stop Marketing, Start Belonging. I started writing this book last year. I talked about it excessively beforehand. I did my launch. We're 3 months out from it. I'm still talking about it. I'm still using it. Like, this is my platform. I am standing behind for, 18, 24 months and using it as a catalyst. Is it going great? It probably could go better. Am I accomplishing what I want for it yet? No. But am I going to give up on it and stop telling people about it? No, not at all. So it serves its purpose, which is to organize my thoughts, give me a platform that I believe in, like an organized platform for what I want to do, and hopefully build out these other ways to help people with where they are.
Can you speak to that in terms of it maybe not being quite where you want it to be, but you're like, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. Can you speak to that mindset of keeping at it and why?
Yeah.
Like what is the drive between the connection you have to whatever it is, and even if it's not working out, just going, going, going.
I have a mentor of mine. Her name is Amy Landino. She's on like her 5th book. She is the one that got me into YouTube. She wrote this book called Vlog Like a Boss. And it was my roadmap to how I can use YouTube to prove myself as an expert and get leads to my business. And it was exactly that. I talk about it all the time. I tell everyone to read it all the time. Like I think she's coming like her 10 years since that book came out. I adore her. She's only 2 weeks. She's 2 weeks younger than me. In fact, I've met her in person. I've done coaching with her. I've interviewed her, all of these things. And she has always done these really intentional, like she's so type A. She's so together and structured. And I'm like, she's so much more adulty than me. And I'm like, how, if I could only be at that place in life, right? Like that's like, I truly do admire what she's done and what she's built. And I think that her consistency and how she's continued to ebb and flow, but still show up as herself has always been really admirable and incredible. And is a measurement I try to hold myself to. I also live an entirely different life than her, where she has steady and consistency in her life. I have a lot of chaos. I have neurodivergent kids. I have a husband with PTSD. I have a lot of chaos in my life and outside forces that keep me from getting to do things consistently. And so for me, with Stop Marketing, Start Belonging, it was like, I need to finish this. This means so much to me. This is a concept that I want to build my platform around and I want to speak on stages about and build programs for. And like, this is what I want to do. And it's more important to me to set a deadline, write it and launch it than to try and make it this perfect thing where I have 2 months of hype building up and I build out a launch group and I have all of my emails in order just the way that they're supposed to be. And I do the photo shoot that does the launch and I record all the background BTS footage for it, and I have my friends who have bought it, like, recording videos about it or seeing it in bookstores and doing all these really cool things that you see in traditional formal book launches. Would I love to do that? Yeah, of course I do. Maybe someday I'll get to do that when I write, like, my 3rd or 4th book, who knows? But for me, I was like, "I gotta launch this. I got to get this out there," because then I'm like, "Okay, I did this really big, hard thing." Like, the amount of people that I've wrote in 1 book, let alone 2, is minuscule. And I'm able to use this platform, like, I'm pitching to be on stages for this. I'm pitching to be on podcasts for this. I'm able to put in my bio on LinkedIn and talk about it like, "Oh, yeah." And everything that's, like, within my marketing messaging comes back to this organized thought that I can then connect to people because speaking on stages, I know this is a big shocker for all of you, is my favorite thing to do. Like, I like to connect, as we've talked about. I like to people. I like to be like a guiding light to help people through stuff in a very connective, relatable way. And so with the launch of the book and just doing it, it's very much like it's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to show up exactly how you want. What's more important, that you get it done enough so you can show up, or just live in this phase of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And if you don't do the thing you say you want to do, if you don't do the hard thing, even if it doesn't come out the way that you want it to, like, the world is being robbed of your genius and what you have to offer.
Was there a particular moment where that thinking came into your mind? Like,
Oh,
obviously, you've explained all the chaos in your life, right? That's the
I
word
haven't
you
even
applied to.
touched it. I have mentioned it. We have, like, put the little water drop of the mess
One
that
pinky
is the
toe in the
background
water.
of. And for what's worth, we all have mess. I'm not ever gonna
Oh,
deny
yeah,
it. My mess
absolutely.
just looks different
Absolutely.
than your mess, but the mess is there, right?
Absolutely. So,
I know exactly the moment, though, I realized this mentality, and it's not when you think it was. I was actually in college. When I was in college, we had a guy that graduated from our school, and he was a, like, lead animator over at Blue Sky Studios. Blue Sky Studios is the 3D modeling studio that has done, Ice Age, Rio, those sorts of movies, and he was one of the lead animators over there. So he came to the school, and he did a little, like, keynote talk for all of us aspiring animators, and he told me a story I will never forget. And he said, "I can't tell you how the message was, the line was like 80% done is better than 100% of nothing. There isn't an animator or an artist in this world that doesn't look at their work with a critical eye saying, I could have done better. I wish I had done this instead. I wish I had this, wish I had that." But then you have the people in the audience or the people looking at it or experiencing the art, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." They're just lost in the story in that theater, and they believe everything that's happening, or they're so emotionally connected to that painting or that art piece, or they're so enamored in the experience that they're going through, that to them, it's perfect. Like, could you imagine? Think about your favorite animated movie. Like, for me, my favorite animated movie is, I mean, there's so many. I was go back to Toy Story, my first one. Could you imagine watching that and thinking that there's anything wrong with it? That there's anything that they could have done better, but every person that watches is like, "Man, I wish I had animated it this way. Oh, man, I wish I had textured it that way. Oh, man, the lighting would be better if I had done this. Ooh, if I had just added this sound effect here, it could have really connected in a better way." So that's when I learned that. So that's like 2004, 2005 when I learned that. I was in college as an artist. And it was one of the best lessons I ever learned. 80% done is better than 100% of nothing.
beautiful again. Desiree, why don't we jump into the book, the main
Yeah.
book for this episode? Why don't you introduce the book again or mention it? I don't know the subtitle. I don't have it in front of me.
No.
So,
Okay.
when yeah, read the full title and
Absolutely.
then the story of it, like how it came to be.
Absolutely. So my book is called Stop Marketing, Start Belonging: Real World Marketing That Builds Loyal Customers Anywhere. Last year, um, the day before my birthday, the day of my birthday, when I turned 40, I got to speak on stage at DigimarCon in Detroit. So DigimarCon is like a franchised speaking organization that does a lot of really great things, and they bring marketing experts and solutions, people all over the country and all over the world, actually. It's a very cool conference. And I was like, I'm going to spend, it was the day before my 40th birthday, on stage doing the thing I love the most. And I like wrapped up, I did a fun like story, like a literal like Facebook, Instagram story. Like, this is my entire day. This is what my last day of my 30s is going to look like. And I saved it and I have it forever. I remember the end of it, like, well, that's peace out 30s, 3 stars, enjoy the journey, would not do again. Like, that's how I think I ended the day. But I got to be on stage and I really loved it. And I have this slide in this presentation. I'm talking to this room full of marketers about how, as marketers, we're often one or two people expected to do all of these things. And this slide is probably something like 20 to 30 different marketing tasks that are actually all jobs in themselves. And everybody, every single person in the audience was like, and so many people came up to me afterwards like, oh my God, that's it. I need that slide. Like, that's exactly how I feel. My boss is making me have to do all of these jobs. I can't do them all, or I'm only good at this part, or we're trying to do all these things and we only have like the budget for like, 4 of them. Like, it's that overwhelm of it. And it made me really think and sit like, man, having to come up, like, how to manage all of these random acts of marketing is really hard. But at the same time, as I'm doing this in-person conference, talking to people about these digital problems, I am doing the humaning. I am doing the peopling. And I sat and I thought about this while I was driving home from Detroit to where I live. It's like 45 minutes. And I was like, when I sit and as I was reflecting, right? Reflecting on the last 10 years of my life, when I sit and look back at when I got started doing this back in 2009, even though I've always sold the internet to people, I have always done it in person. I've always gone to networking events. I've always been a part of chambers. I've always spoken on stages. Whenever I want to build really intentional relationships with people, I send them cards or letters in the mail. I try to find tangible, physical ways to be memorable with people so that I can then sell them the digital world. Because I have always, without realizing it until that drive home, that I was doing traditional in-person marketing and then using digital to maintain those relationships. And so I started thinking about, I started having all of these really interesting, tangible marketing things happen to me. And they would be things like, my daughter has wanted to open her business for years and she has rabbits. So we started the Bunny Buns Poop Factory. She sells bunny poop as fertilizer for your plants, and she does it at the local farmer's market. Like, that's a physical way of selling her product. And she educates people and she talks to people, plus she's adorable and 9, 10 years old. And so everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll give you $2 for your poop. That's fine. Like, it's very weird, but it is what it is. I remember when Alex Hormozy was launching his 3rd book that he did. I forget what it's called, like $1 Million Money or whatever. It's the green one. He sent me mail. I got a letter and a postcard. I have it hanging on my wall. It wasn't like personalized. It was just, hey, I'm doing this digital thing. Here's this physical way I'm marketing it. And the real kicker one for me, which again still cracks me up to this day, is I got a phone book last summer. Like, a phone book was delivered to my house, was put in my mailbox. It was yellow. It was only like this big versus like the ones we grew up, which were like this big. But I got a phone book and I was like, the physical marketing world is alive and well. It's just about like, and it really showed me like, there is a way to market every business in a way that makes sense. There's no one way to do it. Because the reason that phone book exists, like when you open it and see all those ads, it's literally for like stair chair lifts and senior living facilities and funeral planning. Like, it's for literally like those boomers and those older people. Because my neighborhood is literally polar opposites. It's either old people or like incoming families with babies. Like it's stark difference between the two. And it's just because that's where we are, right? In our home buying journey as a country. But yeah, so I just started taking these stories and I chunked them together into groups. So I talked about, so my book walks through like the journey. Like I start with like becoming a military kid. Like the first line of my book in the prologue is, "Where are you from?" It's a complicated question that is usually so easy for other people to answer. But when you're a military kid and a military spouse, that's a really hard question to answer. And so I go on that journey and like, this is where it is. Like, and I talk about how the one thing I learned through all this is what we talked about earlier. It's like you have to dive into these places that you are because you don't know when you're going to be leaving again. And so you just like become experts in your community and you build connections and relationships. Just say, see you later. Let's hang out online later. Or let's connect on Facebook so we can stay in touch and you move on to the next thing. And I broke it down into like, okay, so now we have to now we need to stop doing all these random acts of marketing and we need to have a really clear process for which we build out what we do. And so I created the plant framework, PLANT, that walks through like what we need to have in place for our marketing. And then I dive into these different methods. We have print marketing, we have sponsorships, we have traditional media, we have networking, all those kind of different things. And then I also have a chapter talking about the other way around, how even in our very digital world, these digital creators are creating these in-person experiences to bring their communities that they built online into the real life space so that they can build those intentional connections and deepen those relationships because they too want people.
So then is that, how many chapters are in the book? I'm always curious, like how it is you lay it out, what that journey is, what the.
So I have a prologue and then 10 chapters.
Can you give me some of the chapter titles?
Sure. So stop doing random acts of marketing. Let's plant a garden. Print marketing, networking, events, sponsorships, word of mouth, aka influencer marketing, traditional media, digital to human marketing, and belonging is the works that last.
I'm always curious with authors, and then with your industry, it seems like it's very foundational and the tools evolve. What would you change about your book? Just because, and it's more of an exercise in you, though I see the way that you look at the industry. Is there anything that you would change in the book?
No, I would market it more.
Yeah.
I would try and find better ways to get into the hands of more people. Like I have dreams for my book. Like I want it to be in Costco or in the airport. Where I
Yeah.
want for it to just be delivered to Barnes and Noble bookstores across the country rather than like, oh, I have to order it and get it and then the company has to print it and then they get it a couple weeks later, you know.
Yeah.
Um
And
I
I
would love
only asked not any reflection on the book. I just meant in just how quickly everything evolves.
Mhm. No, I wouldn't change anything because I truly believe everything I talk about in this book will be relevant in 5 years. Because it was relevant 5 years ago
Yeah.
and 10 years ago and 15 years ago. Because like I said, and I talk about this in my first chapter, as like when I needed work, I started networking. And we're seeing that now. Because I'm part of like a couple different chambers and associations in my area, I can see it growing. I can see these people that are usually like, ooh, I'm just flush with business to the like, oh, I need to go out and meet the people. So the realtors, the financial planners, the life coaches, like they're all coming out of the woodwork to network and connect and build out their networks again because it's getting hard.
Desiree, in putting this book out, how have you changed? This is your industry, this is your wheelhouse, you're capturing it in this book, but in the process of putting it out, in the process of getting it out there, were there any things that you rethought during the process? Anything that changed in your thinking, your approach based on writing it all out, seeing it written out? What changed? What evolved in you?
It's been very interesting reflecting on where I am as a professional in this space. I got to be a part of like peak creator economy stuff. Like I built a really profitable multi-six-figure business that allowed me to buy my house. It's a house. I always say it's the house that YouTube bought me. Um, because of all the digital work I had done, all the education that I had done. But it was, and my friend and I were talking about this the other day. She said it was so easy to make money then. And now we're in it and it's harder, it's more crowded, it's what's old people don't care about as much. We're having to pivot and the algorithms don't like it when we pivot and there's all these things. And the question I've been asking myself a lot lately is, am I still passionate about my work? And I'm really coming to the conclusion, like, I love what I'm doing with Stop Marketing, Start Belonging. But I'm also saying the things I don't love to do. Like, I don't love having to like chase business and close deals. Like, I hate doing that. I'm like, I hate having to convince people of what we're doing. And like, how do I figure out the psychology of their fears so that I can manipulate them into saying yes? That's how it very much feels to me. And so it's like, I'm in that journey, like, okay, how do I find a way to build sustainable income while continuing to do what I love, or to fund my life so that I can continue to pursue what I love, which is I want to speak. I want to connect. And this is my favorite thing to do. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love talking to people. I've talked about that repeatedly throughout this. Like, this could be the episode, like, she loves talking to people. Like, that could be the name of the episode. And it's like, it's figuring out like what is the next phase of my professional journey where that is my income stream. That is my money-making thing that allows for me to evolve and into the next level and layer of my professional journey.
So for you, obviously, you put this book out, you're putting all this work into it. I don't know how far ahead you've thought. I mean, we're talking about thinking into the future and whatnot, but in terms of your writing, what are the areas you would want to go into next, if any, about for writing your next book or anything in the future?
It's difficult because I built a brand of being vulnerable about life through marketing. Like, so again, I talk about like, the stuff with my kids and whatever, and PTSDs and stuff like that. And I think if I was like to make if I ever had the freedom to make like a hard pivot in what I would do, what I talk about, it would probably be about like, how can we help people who have to help people. Like I mentioned earlier, my husband's PTSD and it's dark. It's dark and it's hard. And because he's a veteran, there's a ton of supports in place for him. And I have had to scrape, hunt, find, and piece together my own way of supporting myself. And then how do I support my kids who don't understand, and as they've grown and figured things out, and educate them and talk to them about it, and like what help do they have for dealing with it, and all that kind of stuff. So if I got to like just make a hard pivot, I would do like a TED talk about how there's no help for the help and talk about my journey. And then I'd speak on stage as an inspirational speaker talking about like how we can overcome and like how we have to advocate and take care of ourselves while we care for others, and what that would look like, and have some sort of like system like I've created for this as like the plant framework. And I probably write about it in some way, shape, or form. And it would be very much like a story or a memoir of like, it'd probably be like The Mask You Wear or something like that. Like no one knows how hard it actually is behind closed doors.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all there.
Mm.
It sounds like
How
it's
do you
all
make
there
money
and
from
ready
it?
to be written.
It is. Well, I'm living it. I am still living it. Like some days, like you think you're good, and then other days, like it falls apart, and you just have to like have a mental crash and sleep and reset and do the next day with a smile on your face. It's hard, but it's definitely a story I want to tell. It is a story I don't know how to tell, and it is a business. It is a story I don't know how to build a business around. Which probably sounds terrible. Desiree, how are you commercializing your trauma? That's terrible.
No, but it's
But
not
it's also,
that
I still
though.
have to make
It's
money.
not that
Still have
at
to make money.
all. It's not that at all because I mean everything about business, everything about sales is about getting to understanding what somebody needs.
Mhm.
And a lot of what's out there is very pretty and this and that, but I mean not all of life is going to be pretty. There's going to be chaos, there's going to be darkness, there's going to be all of that. So I do think people need that other side, like it can't all be, roses and flowers and blooms and all that. There is, we see that, but behind the curtain, even the people that are, they look like they're doing the best and they got everything on LinkedIn and everything on, like behind the curtain. I mean, we know in most cases that's not quite the real story. It wouldn't surprise me if there are people out. I mean, yeah, there are people out there that are going through something similar. Again, like you said, what you go through won't look like my chaos, but they can just relate that somebody on some level is experiencing that kind of thing where they need to take care of themselves while taking care of others. So I think it's a story that, especially with COVID and just the relatability of self-care, self-prioritization, and not just giving, giving, giving. So I don't know, just me, humble podcast host. Haven't been an author yet, but I think it's there for the taking, and I think it's very timely for where we are now.
I don't think you're wrong. Again, I just don't know what that looks like or how
Yeah,
that work or how it makes sense. Maybe that with asking the question of like, am I passionate about what I do, or is it just what I'm doing because it's what I know how to do? There's a lot of questions. Like I'm in very much like a what's next in my
yeah,
story? What's next in my life? Like I said, I turned 41 next month. I'm like, "What's next? What brings
yeah.
me joy?" I can't tell you the amount of times, like, I'm, like, frustrated about something, and I go upstairs, and I'm, like, baking bread, and I'm like, "Can I just do this? Can I just, like, bake bread and go do kid shit? Like, can I just wanna do that. That sounds so much better than
Yeah.
having to run a business some days. But then there's other days where I'm like, "Man, I really love what I get to do. I get to help people, and I get to see the impact and how what I do actually helps." So,
Yeah.
it's
And
all that. I do know I love it, though.
I think what you see more and more, that what I'm seeing more and more, what I have experienced myself is that kind of thing. You do have somebody that's been in an industry, been in a position, has made the rounds, has networked, is really good at what they're doing, and yet something is off. Like they know they want to have more energy, more passion for it. They're really good. They're happy. It's what they've been doing for forever. But something isn't quite falling into step. What I love is that more and more people admit that, because it's like, listen, the work that I'm already doing, that's not going to suffer. That's my bread and butter. I know that better than anyone. But I mean, it's great that we can all be honest with ourselves and say, okay, now what is that pivot? That word you keep using. What is that next thing? Or what is that thing to supplement what I'm doing now? Like it doesn't have to be 100% this or 100% that. It could be building off whenever you have time, obviously. But I like that conversation where it's like, it doesn't have to be all figured out. And just because you don't, any of us, just because we don't have it all figured out doesn't mean that whatever we do have figured out, if you're following, has any less quality. I like when people can kind of rethink what they're doing, that they admit that they're uncertain, that they're not just trying to paint that facade of this is all I need, this is good, when inside they're like, I need something else, or I'm looking for that next thing. So it's incredible. And I think a lot of it does maybe come from COVID, where, everybody was, okay, what is self-care for me? What is prioritized for me? What am I missing out on? The world could fucking end tomorrow. Have I been happy doing what I'm doing? So just that reassessment and that ability to talk to each other and build a community and understand and listen to each other when we're kind of brainstorming with ourselves. I see that more and more. So that's great.
Mhm. Sort of that idea, like we enter different phases of our life based on like where we are and what we're trying to experience. And, I think that we all can like define eras of our life based on like where we are and what we're doing. And I think as I head into this next era of my life, it's like, okay, what's next? How am I going to define this next chapter? Well,
Yeah.
I'm obviously writing the chapter while I'm in it, writing the book while I'm in it, but it's like, what is it about? What is it going to look like? And how is it going to help and impact people? Because that part, I think, is always a foundational part of who I am as a person. It's like, how can I help you?
Yeah. Just evolution. This is a different generation. This is a different time era of tools of, yeah, FOMO, because you see what's available to you in the world. You can design whatever you want. Um, it's a blessing and a curse, that FOMO, where you see other things that are going on and maybe you don't quite feel like you're there at that level of feeling it. But at the same time, you know, it lights a fire under your ass to get started whenever you can. So if I can be of any service as a brainstorming partner, I always say that. Please reach out because I think so many of us are in that same kind of, but like people look at me and they're like, you have this, the family, the house, the this, the career, you have it all. I'm like, yeah, but something for me is missing. And it doesn't mean,
100%.
and it doesn't mean that I love what I have any less.
No.
But this is just whereas in my dad's generation, having the house, having the family, having the career was we don't know what he was thinking. Maybe at that point, that was the measure of your success or your success as a man, whatever it may be. Now it's different. Now it's like you have access to all these different things in the world. So even though I've met those benchmarks, something's missing for dad. Not missing family wise or anything like that, but there's something out there. So even for me, I've stepped back from coaching just because through this podcast, talking to people has really gotten my curiosity piqued about what my next iteration is. So I'm glad you brought that up and you were open about that.
Yes, I think our parents' generation, my dad's 60, and my dad's like the corporate guy, Marine Corps, government contractor. Like he loves stability. And when it's in threat or distress, like he just the whole world crumbles down around him. And my dad also has his mentality of like, I don't need to grow anymore. I just need to like stay the course, right? And I think that because we grew up, like when we were having our core, like when we were entering into, like, remember, our brains aren't fully developed, like fully grown until we're 25. And so our millennial, this elder millennial generation, like we were going through all this recession hardship, all of these like problem solving, all these like questioning and who are we as in what are we going to do and all that stuff while we were going through like our last like 7 to 5 years of brain development. And so our brains, I think, are constantly curious and are constantly seeking what's next, what's new, who am I beyond this? Because we saw what being stagnant did to our parents, and then how we were kind of told to be stagnant, and then it didn't work. Like, that's our trauma response. Curiosity and I think antsiness is our generational trauma response to trying to do everything that we were supposed to do, and it didn't work out for us. And so when we enter these different phases of life, where like my husband and I are just talking about this, like these younger kids are coming in and they're the ones that are laying out the next 10 years of life in the way that we did with social and app development. Also, like they're building out what our future is. Like we are no longer the active workers, the active shapers. We are the mentors and the guides and the narrators, the voices of reason and experience. And I think that's like this shift that we're going into. Because I also think the thing that's also hard within this is we didn't have that. We didn't have this generation of mentors and guides. They were still working and taking
Mm.
and deciding what we were supposed to do, and then it didn't work out. I would love to have a mentor. That's why I love helping other people and mentoring and guiding them so that I can be there for them. That's why my mentors and guides are literally my same age, and they're my peers, and they're books I've read, and they're these conversations. And so when we're trying to figure out like where we go next, who we're going to be next, where we're going next, we're always in this phase of like, I don't know. And it feels that we've been asking ourselves the question forever because it's been this constant state of, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. I do know that.
Yeah, but the good thing is like when you have that ability to people the way you have and you have that curiosity, that to me is what sets people apart is just that curiosity.
Mm,
If you have something that's just kind of like doing this to your ear overall, like something's calling you.
yeah.
The compensation for all of that uncertainty is it is later in life. If you're looking at the future retirement, we're living longer. Um, and there's always an opportunity to learn. There's always an opportunity to network. There's always an opportunity to design. And you can't teach that. You can share it with somebody, but the real heart behind that, you can't teach that. So for me, if you have that heart of curiosity, that fire of curiosity for something, it's like you're good just because you will keep going. You will keep fighting, that good fight for what it is that's calling you, that maybe, and I'm talking just in general. So I may be saying you and looking at you, but I don't mean you yourself, but
You mean you, the listener.
yeah, exactly. So it's a double-edged sword because you do what you're supposed to do, and then you get to you meet all the check marks, and it's like, this doesn't quite feel like how thought I was going to feel. But at the same time, when you have that knowledge, and I'm older than you, I love that you refer to me like kind of being in your generation. I appreciate that. But I kind of appreciate that it's happening now because I realize that, okay, I have everything covered. Now I can play around. Now I can design. Now all these things, these curiosities that I've put out there and had these conversations, now I can experiment, do my due diligence and experiment accordingly. So I feel like we have more uncertainty than they did, but we have more opportunities if we want to go out and look for them.
100%. And I think that our job is to stay curious. It is to keep giving back and helping and guiding any way that we can, and just to keep growing and exploring how we can be better. That way, we can not only accomplish that self-fulfillment, but also be able to help the world around us and the world we're going to leave behind.
Absolutely. Desiree, in getting close to wrapping up, what book has inspired you and made an impact on you? Obviously, we're talking about your book, but what book really stands out and has shaped the way you approach life, business, whatever it may be? Does any book in particular stand out?
Well, I did already talk about Vlog Like a Boss by Amy Schmittauer Landino. That's definitely a big one. I also was very impacted by, oh shoot, it's by Jen Cicero. You Are a Badass. That was one that really hit me. I read it a couple times, and it always finds me when I need to like think through things in really intentional ways, because it talks about the big snooze, and it's what the big snooze is it's the BS, right? It's the BS that gets in your way of accomplishing and having the things that you want. And it's very much the idea, it's like when you're doing something hard, when you're making big change, the universe and your nervous system want you to stay right where you are because it's safe and it's easy and it knows what to do there. And so it's about fighting through that and like, how can we get past it? And so that was a book that was really impactful for me. And this book has absolutely nothing to do with business or development, but it really opened up a new personal hobby chapter of my life, and it's Legends and Lattes. It is a book. It's a cozy fantasy book about what happens when your D&D character retires. And it totally introduced me to this idea of like cozy fantasy. It's great escapism. It's a wonderful palate cleanser. And it's like, if I had, remember we talked earlier about like spicy, fairy, whatever, like my book genre would be fantasy cozy books. And it's like the Legends and Lattes, the you can't spell treason without T, and the house switch. Like I just love these stories where it's like fantasy and magic and unrealistic, but it's like cozy and like you really love the characters. And so like it allowed for me to like enter into my like, I don't know, like my truly embrace my D&D era. Like that is totally where I live right now. That's my hobby. Like I'm Desiree, marketing extraordinaire and D&D junkie. I play a druid on Fridays twice a month, and it's my favorite.
Yeah, and like you said, that book isn't development, it's not leadership, it's not business, but at the same time, it's like any book that really does it for you.
So good for my brain. It's so good for your brain to do something on. I
Yeah?
really think that we've gotten so trapped in hustle culture that we're like,
Yeah.
I constantly have to be developing and growing and learning.
Yeah.
No, go listen to something, or go. I listen to books. I don't read books because my brain is weird. And since having children, they ruined my brain. I can't read books, but I can listen to them all day. Um, go consume something and do something that has nothing to do with your professional life. It's okay. I give you permission. You're good. You're
Yeah.
good. You're good, guys. You're good. It's okay to, like, be something beyond your job title.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody should have that little escapist period, app, book, something that just kind of is you don't have to think about anything but just enjoy it. And I think I'm one of those people that thinks when you're working on something or hustling or whatever you want to call it, and you step away and you do something completely unrelated, that when you come back with a fresh eye, with a fresh heart, with a fresh mind, with fresh innovation. So it's a good balance. That's a great reminder. Thank you for pointing that out.
Happy to do it, guys.
And then Desiree, wrapping up now, is there anything else that you want to share? Anything maybe I didn't ask about? Anything you have coming up? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
Guys, just go follow me on LinkedIn and hold me accountable to the things that I want to do and accomplish in life. If I said anything that you really felt connected to, tell me, message me, let me know. Like, I want to know that, like, if you were listening this long, like, thank you so much. But just let me know, like, what you've thought about it, what you felt about it. Like, I'd love to know that. Like, that's what you can do for me next. Like, that's where I'm at. And if you want, go buy my book.
No, go buy her book. And because she laid out the invitation about keeping her accountable, I'll be tagging her in comments on LinkedIn about that book that she's got percolating in her mind. Again, Desiree shared her book, Stop Marketing, Start Belonging, Real World Marketing that build loyal customers anywhere. I will share the link to the book when I post this, when I post anything that has to do with Desiree. Desiree, thank you so much for your time and for sitting down with me.
Thank you so much, too. And I look forward to knowing all of you better, hearing from you all better. And just remember, you are impossibly amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Like, when somebody's genuine about connecting. There's just, you'll know it when you see it. You'll feel it when you see it. Some people are just so good at peopling, as you would say. It's something that's just of another world because you can network, you can connect, you can build relationships, but there's just something that somebody can bring, that extra level of whatever it is you have, Desiree. I think we learned about it in this hour, but I appreciate your time. And if there's anything that I might have missed, let me know. There's so little time, so much to cover. Let me know and I'll reach out to Desiree, see what kind of responses, wisdom, suggestions, anything at all she might be able to provide back. In the meantime, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.